Cheating ex claims. Open marriage is the norm. Hey, true story. My name's Mitchell. I'm a general construction manager. Been in the industry for about 17 years now. I've worked my way up from a lowly apprentice hauling lumber in the rain to running multi-million-dollar build-outs for architectural firms. I've seen a lot of job sites, a lot of personalities, and a lot of drama, but nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to the chaos that came from meeting my ex-wife, Allison. I met Allison on a project we were both assigned to. She was the lead interior designer for this high-end commercial building in downtown Chicago, and I was the general contractor managing the build itself. From day one, she had this mix of confidence and charm that pulled everyone in. She was sharp, creative, and knew how to command a room. I respected that. You don't see that kind of composure on a chaotic job site often. We worked together for close to 2 years on that project. I remember the first few months being all business. She'd come to the site in her hard hat and heels, which always made the guys laugh, and start going over finishes and color schemes with that artistic seriousness of hers. I'd tease her sometimes. You designers love your color palettes, huh? Out here, we just try to make sure the building doesn't fall down. She'd roll her eyes but laugh every time. We developed this light-hearted rhythm, almost like a friendly rivalry between practicality and creativity. Somewhere between late-night blueprint meetings and site inspections, I started to notice she'd linger a little longer when we talked. I didn't think much of it at first. I was in a long relationship that had ended not long before that job, and I wasn't looking for anything serious. But after we wrapped up that project, she was the one who made the first move. She asked me out. I still remember that text. It was a Friday night and she messaged, "So, now that we're not technically co-workers anymore, how about we grab dinner that doesn't involve construction dust?" I laughed because that was so her. Confident, a little sarcastic, and direct. We went to this little Italian spot near the river, and man, it was one of those dates that just felt easy. We talked about everything: design, travel, family, future goals, and it flowed naturally. From that night, things took off fast. 7 months later, I knew she was it for me. I dated women before, but with her, it felt different. She understood my world, my schedule, my stress. She'd stop by job sites to drop off lunch or coffee, and sometimes she'd walk through and give her opinion on the layout. She genuinely took interest in what I did, and I loved that. So, when it came time to propose, I did it at the same building we worked on together, the one that started everything. We were walking through it one evening after hours because she wanted to see how it aged, and I got down on one knee right there in the lobby. She cried, said yes, and hugged me so tight I almost dropped the ring. I thought I was the luckiest man alive. The first few years of marriage were good, really good actually. We were both working hard, growing in our careers, and traveling when we could. We had this dynamic where we pushed each other to do better. When she got a promotion to head of interior design at her firm, I was genuinely proud. I was there cheering her on, always telling people my wife was the best designer in the business. But here's the thing: success changes people. Or maybe it just reveals who they really are. About 2 years into the marriage, I started noticing small things that didn't sit right with me. She started dressing differently for work, tighter clothes, higher heels. I joke about it sometimes, saying she was making the other designers jealous, but she'd brush me off. "It's fashion, Mitch. You wouldn't get it." Then there was this one guy at her firm. His name was Evan. I didn't like him from the moment I met him. He was one of those creative types that thinks every boundary is a suggestion. Flirty, too touchy, and way too comfortable with women who weren't his. I noticed how he'd hover around her at firm events, and I could tell he had a thing for her. She'd say, "Oh, that's just Evan. He's harmless." Well, I didn't find it harmless at all. At one firm dinner, I watched him grab her by the waist while posing for a photo, and she didn't even move his hand away. That burned me up inside. Later that night, I told her I didn't like how close they seemed. She snapped back, saying I was being insecure. That was the first time I ever felt dismissed by her like that. Fast forward a few years, everything seemed steady again. We'd settled into our routine, bought a home, and even started talking about kids. But then came her company Christmas party, the one that would change everything. Now this is where it all started to unravel. Her firm used to allow spouses to come to their annual holiday parties. I'd gone to a couple in the past. They were classy events with open bars and way too much small talk about design trends. But around our 5th year of marriage, the company stopped inviting spouses. She said it was because too many people were bringing plus ones and it was getting expensive. I didn't think much of it at first, but this last one, the 6th Christmas party since we'd been married, something felt off. She was unusually excited about it, spent hours picking out her dress, even had her nails done midweek. I asked, "So, what's the theme this year?" And she said, "Just classy cocktail attire." She looked stunning when she left, but my gut told me something wasn't right. That night, she was out late, didn't come home until after 2:30 a.m. When she walked in, she was clearly buzzed, makeup smudged, perfume heavy, and smiling like she'd just had the best night of her life. I tried to ask how the party went, but she brushed me off. "It was fun, babe. You'd have been bored anyway." Here's where things get ugly. I couldn't shake that gut feeling. I knew her, and something in her demeanor had shifted. She was distracted the next few days, on her phone more, giggling at texts, acting distant. I asked if everything was okay, and she said, "Mitch, not everything is about you. Work's just stressful." I let it go for a bit, but man, something deep down told me she'd crossed a line. So I reached out to this kid, an intern named Derek. I'd met him while managing another project earlier that year. He was young, hungry to prove himself, and I knew he was doing some side work at her firm too. I told him, "Hey, I'll owe you one, big time, but I need you to keep an eye out for me. Specifically around that designer named Evan." He hesitated at first, but he agreed. A few days later, he texted me saying, "You might want to see this." I'll never forget the pit that formed in my stomach when I opened that message. There she was, my wife, laughing, dancing, and hanging all over that same guy I told her to keep distance from. Then came the worst part, a short video of them kissing near the bar. It wasn't a friendly peck. It was full on, hands on each other kind of kiss. My chest went cold. You know that feeling when reality just breaks? When everything you believed about someone suddenly looks like a lie? That was me in that moment. I must have sat there for an hour staring at that video, heart racing, trying to make sense of it. I wasn't even mad at first, just numb. Then it hit me all at once, and I saw red. When she came home that night, I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I just sat there waiting. She came in talking about how crazy busy work was, pretending like nothing had happened. That's when I said, "So how was Evan?" Her whole body froze. The color drained from her face. She stammered, What do you mean?" I showed her the pictures, the video. She went silent. Didn't even deny it at first, just stared at the floor. Then the excuses started. It wasn't what it looked like. We were just drunk. It didn't mean anything. I didn't buy a word of it. That night turned into a full-blown argument. She started crying, begging me not to overreact, saying she didn't sleep with him. It was just harmless fun. Then she dropped a bomb that made me realize who I was really married to. She said, "Mitch, open marriages are becoming normal. People don't take monogamy so seriously anymore. Maybe we should talk about that." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She went from denying it to trying to normalize it, like I was supposed to just accept that this was the new trend. That was the moment I mentally checked out. I realized the woman I fell in love with the one who used to bring me coffee on site and cheer me on, was gone. She'd been replaced by someone selfish, delusional, and morally bankrupt. I didn't yell after that. I just told her, "We'll talk tomorrow," and went to sleep in the guest room. But in that silence, I already knew it was over. That night after I showed Allison the pictures and the video of her kissing that clown, Evan, I barely slept. I stayed up most of the night staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. Every memory felt different now. The proposal at that building, the laughter, the little things she used to say. It was like watching a movie of a life I thought was real, but now I knew it was all built on lies. In the morning, she came downstairs, eyes red and swollen. She tried to act like she wanted to talk calmly, but I could see she'd been crying all night. I didn't say a word at first. I was sipping my coffee, just waiting for her to speak. "Mitch," she started, voice trembling, "please don't do anything drastic. We can work through this." I looked at her and said, "Work through what, Allison? You kissed another man, the same guy I told you had feelings for you. You disrespected me, our marriage, and everything we built." She started crying again and sat across from me. "It was a stupid mistake. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. You've been so distant lately. I just wanted to feel..." I slammed my hand on the table before she could finish. "Don't you dare blame this on me." She jumped. I wasn't yelling, but the anger in my voice was different. Cold, controlled, final. "You wanted to feel something? You had a husband right here. You wanted attention, not love. Don't twist this." That's when she dropped the same line that still makes me sick to my stomach. She said, "Mitch, things are changing. You can't expect marriage to look like it did 50 years ago. People explore now. Open relationships are normal. Maybe we should consider..." "Stop," I interrupted. "Just stop." I couldn't even listen to her try to justify what she did by calling it normal. I stood up and said, "I'm going for a drive." I got in my truck and just drove aimlessly for a few hours. My mind was a tornado. I thought about every time I defended her when people said she was too flirty, every time I brushed off small red flags because I wanted to be the strong, trusting husband. I realized I'd been giving her the benefit of the doubt while she was busy betraying me behind my back. When I finally came home that evening, she had dinner ready, like she thought she could fix everything with spaghetti and garlic bread. I wasn't even hungry. She tried to hand me a plate, but I told her, "You don't have to pretend." She sat down and said, "I talked to Evan today. He feels horrible." I couldn't believe she said that. "You talked to him?" She nodded. "I had to. He's part of my team at work, and we needed to set boundaries moving forward." That was the first time I laughed since the whole thing happened. A dry, bitter laugh. "Boundaries? After you already crossed them?" She tried to defend herself, saying it wasn't as bad as I was making it out to be, that people do worse things and recover. I told her, maybe other people do, but I'm not one of them. The next few days were awkward. We lived in the same house but barely spoke. I slept in the guest room. She'd cry at night sometimes. I could hear her through the wall. I wanted to feel sorry for her, but every time I remembered that video of her laughing in that guy's face while he kissed her, all the pity disappeared. A week later, I contacted a divorce attorney. When I told her, she broke down. She threw herself on the floor crying, saying I was throwing away our marriage over one mistake. I told her, "No, you threw it away the moment you kissed another man," and then tried to justify it. That night, she packed a bag and went to stay with her sister. Before leaving, she said, "You're making a huge mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, Mitch. You're going to regret this." I told her, "No, the only regret I have is not trusting my gut sooner." For the next couple of weeks, I tried to just focus on work. I poured myself into projects, long days on site, late nights reviewing blueprints, anything to drown out the noise. But the silence in that house was deafening. Every room felt heavier. Then came the flood of text messages. She'd text me every night around midnight. I miss you. Can we talk? You're my whole world. It was just one night, Mitch. I was drunk. Then she started sending long paragraphs about how she'd been unhappy for a while, how she felt like we were emotionally disconnected. That was her new angle. Blame me for her actions. Classic cheater move. But I didn't respond, not once. I refused to give her that power again. About a week after that, she showed up at my job site. It was a Wednesday morning, and I was going over some plans with my crew when one of the guys said, "Hey, boss, there's a lady asking for you by the trucks." I walked over, and there she was, standing there in her work clothes, tears already welling up. I pulled her aside. "What are you doing here?" I just wanted to see you," she said softly. "You won't answer my calls or texts." I told her I had nothing left to say. She said, "Mitch, please, I made a mistake. I'll quit the firm. I'll cut contact with Evan. I'll do anything. Just don't end us like this." That almost got me. Almost. But then she ruined it by saying, "People do things like this all the time. They just don't talk about it. Everyone has moments of weakness." That right there reminded me exactly who I was dealing with. Someone who couldn't take accountability to save her life. I told her, "I'm not everyone, and you're not my wife anymore. You made sure of that." She cried harder and tried to hug me, but I stepped back. "Go home, Allison." She left, crying in the parking lot. My crew saw everything, and I could tell they felt awkward, but I didn't care. I'd rather face 100 uncomfortable moments at work than one more night in a house filled with lies. A few days later, her sister called me. She said Allison was a mess. Barely eating, not going to work, crying all day. I said, "That's not my problem anymore." Her sister tried to guilt trip me, saying, "You really can't forgive her for one mistake." I told her, "Forgiveness doesn't mean stupidity." That's something a lot of people don't understand. You can forgive someone without letting them back into your life. The divorce process took about 6 months. 6 long, draining months of paperwork, arguments, and emotional manipulation. At first, she tried to fight it. She claimed we should go to counseling. Then she started showing up at random places, the grocery store, the gym, accidentally running into me. She'd start crying every time, saying, "You're throwing away the best thing that ever happened to you." I stayed calm through all of it. I wasn't the same man she could guilt anymore. When it came time for mediation, she tried a new tactic. She played the victim. She told the mediator that I was emotionally unavailable and controlling. That made me laugh out loud in that room. The mediator had to ask me to compose myself. I said, "Controlling. The only thing I tried to control was keeping our marriage faithful." She glared at me, but I didn't flinch. I was done being the quiet, understanding husband. One thing that helped me through it all was remembering who I was before her. I used to be proud, confident, focused. Somewhere along the line, I'd let her charm blind me to the fact that she was selfish. She loved attention from anyone. And once I stopped feeding that ego 24/7, she went looking elsewhere. That's the truth about people like her. They're never satisfied. The final hearing came, and it was surreal. 6 years of marriage reduced to signatures and stamps. When the judge said the divorce was finalized, I felt this wave of calm wash over me. Not sadness, not regret, just peace. Afterward, she approached me outside the courthouse. She said, "So that's it? You're really done?" I said, "I was done the night you kissed another man." She started crying again, real tears this time. "I thought you'd fight for me." I looked at her and said, "I did, for 6 years. You didn't fight back." And I walked away. Didn't look back once. The months that followed were strange. Divorce is like detox. You have to wean yourself off the idea of someone you loved. There were nights I'd still wake up expecting her next to me. Then I'd remember she chose someone else, even if it was just for a night. She broke that bond. I started focusing on my health. I spent more time with my crew, my buddies, my family, and spending weekends fixing up my truck. It felt good to have control of my life again. And here's the crazy part. About 3 months after the divorce, I heard through a mutual connection that Evan, the guy she cheated with, had gotten engaged to someone else from the firm. Apparently, he never had any intention of being with Allison. She was just another office fling for him. When I heard that, I didn't even feel angry. I just felt sorry for her. Because deep down, I think that broke her more than losing me. She reached out one last time about 6 months after everything was finalized. Sent me a long email saying she realized she destroyed the best thing that ever happened to her. She said she'd been in therapy, learning about her attachment issues and her need for external validation. She asked if we could meet for closure. I didn't respond. I already had my closure. My closure came the day I decided that my peace mattered more than her apologies. I deleted the email, blocked her number, and promised myself I'd never let anyone make me question my worth again. Now it's been about a year since the divorce. I've rebuilt my life piece by piece. Work's been going great. Just landed one of the biggest contracts of my career. My crew respects me more than ever because they saw firsthand what I went through and how I handled it with dignity. And you know what? I've started to feel like myself again. Sometimes I still think about how she tried to convince me that open marriages were normal. How she said that like it was supposed to make everything okay. That line has stuck with me more than the cheating itself. Because it shows how far people will go to justify their selfishness. If you have to redefine morality to make your actions feel right, then you already know you're wrong. After the divorce, I was finally starting to breathe again. I was back in my rhythm, running job sites, hitting the gym, actually sleeping through the night. I wasn't thinking about Allison anymore, other than the occasional reminder when I'd drive by a place we used to go. I didn't hate her anymore. I just didn't care. And for me, that's the best kind of peace. About 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I was on a project out in Oak Park. It was a big commercial renovation, long days, 10-hour shifts, but the kind of work that keeps your mind occupied. One Thursday afternoon, while I was up on the second floor going over electrical layouts with the foreman, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. Normally I ignore those, especially since after the divorce, I'd been getting the occasional accidental text from Allison pretending to send something meant for someone else. But this time, I picked up. "Hey, Mitch, this is Ryan." I froze for a second. Ryan, that was Allison's brother. He and I had always had a decent relationship. Back when Allison and I were married, we'd done a few things together. Watched football, grabbed beers, talked about work. He was a blue-collar guy too, ran his own landscaping business. We weren't close, but there was mutual respect, or at least I thought there was. He said, "Look, man, we need to talk." I sighed. "About what, Ryan?" "It's about Allison," he said, voice already irritated. "She's in a tough spot right now, and you're making things harder than they need to be." I already felt my blood pressure rising. "Making things harder? Ryan, she's not my problem anymore. We got divorced almost a year ago." He snapped back. "Yeah, I know, but you left her with a pile of debt, man. I had to step in. I paid her lawyer and helped her get out of that credit card mess you left her in." I literally laughed out loud. "What I left her in? Are you kidding me?" He didn't laugh. "You think it's funny? You left her high and dry. You're out here doing fine while she's struggling. I had to help her out, and now I'm out thousands. I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking for what's fair." That's when it hit me. He actually believed she was the victim in all this. I said, "Ryan, let me make this clear, and then I don't owe your sister anything. She's the one who cheated. She's the one who ruined her own finances. If you wanted to play hero and pay her bills, that's on you. Don't come to me looking for reimbursement." He said, "So that's it? You're just gonna let her drown?" "She's already underwater," I said coldly, "and I didn't throw her there. She jumped." He cursed under his breath and said, "You're a real piece of work, Mitch. After everything she's been through, the least you could do is show some compassion." I hung up. I could feel my hands shaking. It wasn't even anger at that point. It was disbelief. I'd spent years supporting that woman, paying bills, upgrading our house, covering her impulsive spending habits. She was the one who opened secret credit cards during the marriage, not me. But now, somehow, in their twisted reality, I was the one who left her in debt. For a week or two, I didn't hear from him again. Then one Saturday morning, around 9 a.m., there was a loud knock on my front door. I opened it, and there he was, standing on my porch, looking pissed off. I said, "You've got to be kidding me." He stepped closer, pointing a finger at me. "We need to settle this, man." "Settle what?" He pulled out his phone, waving it around. "I've got receipts. I paid her lawyer retainer. I paid off her visa. I even covered her rent when she couldn't make it last month. You think I'm gonna just eat all that while you're out here building new houses and pretending she never existed?" I crossed my arms. "That's exactly what you're gonna do, Ryan, because none of that has anything to do with me." He got in my face. "You think you can just walk away from the mess you made?" At that point, I'd had enough. I said, "The only mess I walked away from was your sister's lies. You should have told her to think twice before screwing around at a Christmas party." That set him off. He shoved me hard. Now, I'm not a small guy. Years in construction keep you built for that kind of thing, but it took everything in me not to swing. I stepped back, glared at him, and said, "You got 3 seconds to get off my property." He said, "You're gonna regret this, Mitch. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." I said, "Yeah, go ahead. Tell them your sister cheated and then begged me to let her have an open marriage. See how that sounds." He looked stunned. I don't think Allison ever told him the full story. He stuttered, "You're lying. She told me you were controlling, that you used money to manipulate her." I laughed again, that bitter, exhausted laugh. "Yeah, sounds like her. She couldn't manipulate me anymore, so she flipped the script." He didn't know what to say. He just clenched his jaw and walked off, muttering to himself. I stood there on the porch watching him get in his truck and peel off down the street. I thought that would be the end of it, but no, it got worse. A few days later, I started getting messages from mutual acquaintances, people from her firm, even a few friends we'd shared as a couple. "Hey man, what's going on? Heard you stiffed Allison's brother out of money?" I couldn't believe it. Ryan was actually telling people I owed him. I texted him, "Stop spreading lies or I'll handle it legally." He replied, "You can't handle everything with lawyers, tough guy. Be a man and pay your debt." That's when I knew this wasn't about money. It was about pride. He couldn't stand that I refused to play the guilt game. The next weekend, I ran into him again, this time at a local supply yard. I was loading up materials when I saw his truck pull in. I tried to ignore him, but he walked straight over. "Mitch," he said, "you think you're better than everyone now?" I shook my head. "Ryan, I'm trying to work. Go bother someone else." He wouldn't stop. "She's your ex-wife, man. You can't just walk away like she never existed. You owe her something." That's when I snapped. "You're damn right I owe her something. Nothing. Not a damn thing. I gave her loyalty, love, and respect. She paid me back with betrayal. And now you're here, trying to cash in on her mistakes. You picked the wrong guy." He got in my face again, puffing his chest like he wanted to fight. I dropped the piece of lumber I was holding and said, "If you touch me again, I'm calling the cops." He must have seen I wasn't joking, because he backed off. He muttered something like, "You'll get what's coming," and walked off. After that, I decided enough was enough. I called my lawyer, the same guy who handled my divorce, and explained the situation. He sent Ryan a cease and desist letter. Basically, it stated that if he continued to harass me, spread false statements, or show up at my house or work, I'd pursue a restraining order and possibly a defamation claim. That shut him up for about a month. Then, right around the holidays, because of course it had to be around Christmas again, I got a letter in the mail. Not from a lawyer, not from a company, but from Allison herself. She wrote this long emotional letter saying how disappointed she was that I was treating her family like enemies. She said, "Ryan only helped me because you abandoned me when I needed you most." She even had the nerve to write, "You wouldn't even be where you are if it weren't for me supporting you in your early career." That was the point where I just sat there laughing. I couldn't even be mad anymore. The mental gymnastics these people do to rewrite history is insane. I drafted a simple one-line reply and mailed it back. "You made your bed, Allison. Stop trying to drag other people into it." Never heard back after that. But it didn't stop the ripple effect. Word travels fast in certain professional circles. A couple of months later, I got word that Ryan was bad-mouthing me to some subcontractors we both used. He'd tell people, "Watch out for Mitch. He screws people over." Luckily, my reputation speaks for itself. I've been in this business long enough that people know who I am and how I operate. Still, it was irritating. Grown men acting like high schoolers because they can't accept accountability. Here's the thing. Ryan's anger wasn't really about money. It was about the fact that his sister destroyed her life, and he needed someone to blame. It's easier to believe that her controlling husband left her in debt than to admit she blew up her own marriage and career. Eventually, one of my old contacts who still worked at Allison's firm told me the truth. Apparently, after the divorce, Allison went on a spending spree trying to reinvent herself. Expensive clothes, luxury vacations with her girlfriends, even some business investment that flopped. She maxed out her credit cards, defaulted on one, and then went crying to her brother. He paid off a few balances thinking she was getting back on her feet. When he realized she wasn't paying him back, he decided to come after me. Once I heard that, everything made sense. I stopped taking it personally. People like Allison and Ryan live in denial. They can't face their own mistakes, so they rewrite the story to make themselves look like victims. About 6 months after that confrontation at the supply yard, I ran into Ryan again, this time by chance, at a mutual friend's barbecue. He looked rough. Stress aged him. I wasn't planning to talk to him, but he came over, beer in hand, acting like nothing ever happened. "Hey, man," he said. "How have you been?" I just stared at him. "You serious right now?" He shrugged. "Look, I was pissed, all right? I thought you did my sister dirty. She told me a lot of stuff that wasn't true." I said, "You think?" He sighed. "Yeah, turns out she was lying to me about the money. She said you emptied your joint account before the divorce. I believed her." I just nodded. "And now you see the truth." He looked embarrassed. "Yeah, I do. I shouldn't have come at you like that." I didn't say much after that. I just told him, "Next time, make sure you know the whole story before you swing at someone." We didn't shake hands. We didn't suddenly become buddies. But I walked away from that conversation feeling lighter. Not because he apologized, but because it proved what I already knew. The truth always finds its way out. Now it's been over 2 years since the divorce. I haven't heard from Allison since that ridiculous letter. From what I know, she's still working at the same firm, barely scraping by. Ryan went back to focusing on his business. And me? I'm good, better than I've ever been. You know, true story, the more I look back on it, the more I realize how often good men get blamed for the consequences of other people's bad choices. We try to build, they destroy, and somehow it's still our fault. But here's what I've learned. You can't reason with people who refuse to live in reality. You can't fix people who get addicted to their own lies. And you damn sure can't let them drag you down just because they can't climb out of the hole they dug. So yeah, Her brother tried to fight me, tried to shake me down for money, tried to smear my name. None of it worked, because when you know the truth and you stand on it, you become untouchable. At the end of the day, I don't owe anyone an apology or a dollar. Not her, not her brother, not her family. The only thing I owed myself was peace, and I finally paid that debt in full.